I guess we'll go ahead and kick off here. We'll give everybody a couple more minutes to jump on. We wanted to start with a couple updates this month. So Les, I'll run through a few and then I'll pass the mic to you for any updates. Really for this month, guys, we just released a new version of the Headlight Materials app. So we just wanted to make sure everybody has the most recent version there. So that was on the newsletter as well that Les sent out, but that version is 1.8.8. So please make sure you're updated there. And also note that it's now called Materials. It's not called Headlight Materials. So just if you see a name change there, just wanted to give you a heads up. And if anyone has any issues updating that, or feel free to reach out. And then for our second update, our micro learning session this month, we're gonna actually cover Headlight Materials in that session. So we're actually gonna make the session an hour instead of our usual half hour. And we do have a separate Zoom invite for that. So Kevin Adams, I know I added you to that one, but it is gonna be a separate invite than our normal session, just so that we can record it. So if anyone does want to attend that, please drop your email in the Zoom chat here so that we can get you added there. We can send out a reminder as well. But so please do drop your email in the chat. We're gonna dive headfirst into Headlight Materials, and we'll have time for a Q&A there as well. So it'll definitely be a great session to join. But if you're not able to join, we can definitely email out the recording as well. Les, I think those are my two big updates. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
I have just a couple of things that I'll probably bring up later after the Q&A or right before my session that are updates. Just to get the word out there. It looks like there was a couple of changes with SamplePlan. We're not going to get too deep off into it. I just want to kind of mention it. So if anybody looks at it, you're not surprised. I was surprised when I saw it. But yeah, I think we could just do the Q&A, and then Casey, if you don't mind, we'll run through your session, and then I'm going to go over. It's really something that's kind of come up recently on projects, and it's a little bit of both. It is the reviewing of reports, but it's also kind of coincides with what your inspectors are doing and how they're capturing the data. So we want to go over that today also. So with that, we'll just kind of open up Q&A. Does anybody have anything that's come up lately that you need help with?
Don't all jump at once.
I tell you what, Casey, I just tested Gabby's fix. I went on the Claiborne Hill project that we have right now, and I just tried creating a field test sample for some thermoplastic markings using the dashboard, using the category. It kept the item number, so it's working.
Great.
Awesome, Kevin. I know that was a long time coming, so thank you for your patience, but I'm really happy that it's working for you. I'll let Gabby know too.
Yeah, and it's not just for me, it's for everybody.
Oh,
I just wanted to
absolutely.
bring that, up so that way we can have it working for everybody.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for testing that out, Kevin.
Hey, kind of along those same lines, one of the things that we came across, so I'm sure most of you on here know this, but not everyone. So the construction section has been going across the state, traveling all over the place, doing district meetings that we're calling construction roundup meetings. And so one thing we heard in almost every one of those meetings is that there has been very slow sync times from the time that you review a report in Headlight until the time that it gets in Site Manager. And we heard this from every district. And honestly, we were kind of caught off guard by it because I had not heard that or seen any kind of, I don't believe Headlight has seen any support tickets coming in for that. I think people were just dealing with it. So with all that said, we kind of brought it up to Headlight, and they have already got what we think is a fix for it, but we really need your help. So as you are reviewing your reports, try to keep an eye on those sync times and for the amount of time it takes to get to Site Manager. and let us know. So if it's still taking a long time, please let us know that, because I know that that's not an issue during the month, right? But 3 or 4 days before the estimate time, that gets pretty nerve-wracking trying to get an estimate out. And so please just keep an eye on that. Like I said, we think there's a fix for it already. In fact, we kind of discovered that it might have just been, in a lot of cases, that the report was actually in Site Manager, but that it was not showing that it was in Site Manager on the headlight side. And so that could have been part of it. But anyway, so the P's on here, or the people who are reviewing reports, please just kind of keep an eye on that for us and let us know how it's going. Now, there are some limitations with Site Manager, and of course with us losing all those servers and stuff, there could be some delay on that side as well. So I'm not saying that it's going to be super fast, but hopefully it'll be manageable for you. Let me just say it this way. If that report has not gotten over to Site Manager within a couple hours, please submit a ticket, because that's really what we're doing. That sync runs, I believe, every 30 minutes. And so if it does not hit, in 3 or 4 times of running that sync, then there's obviously something wrong. Anybody have comments on that's on here? Like anybody else having those problems that maybe we have not met with yet? Jimmy, we hadn't made it to your district yet. I'm not sure if you've noticed that problem. You're driving. You don't answer that. You don't have to answer.
I'm on speaker right now, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I review them, like the morning, and I don't even hardly worry about it till later in the day. So I'm not sure exactly how long it's take.
Okay, well that's good. We'll talk about it when we come up there. We'll be at your district next week, so we'll talk about it with some of your people. Maybe you can come join us. All right, any other issues? What if we have questions and you guys give answers? Maybe that's what we need to start doing, Casey.
Switch up the format. We might have to.
All right, well,
Nobody?
it's gonna be an easy week for the Q&A session, it looks like.
I guess so. All right. Well, if there's not, feel free. If anything does come up, pop it in the chat or come off mute. I actually, based on our webinar, I think it was last month, we just had a few updates to the HeadLight Fast Capture app, so the iPhone app. So I wanted to share those, but also I guess on that note, just before we get into that, have people been using the Fast Capture, the iPhone app? Have there been any questions, concerns, or feedback on that one? I see you smiling, Kevin Adams.
I use it.
Anybody other than Les? All right. I still want to share the updates just for those of you that are using it. So I'm actually going to go ahead and share my iPhone screen really quick. So there are 2 things I wanted to talk about today. So let me get off here. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Fast Capture app. So I wanted to let everybody know that, similar to when you take a picture on your iPad on the Fieldbook app and all the pictures saved to your iPad photo gallery, we've actually added that same feature to the Fast Capture app. So once you're logged into Fast Capture, if you click your initials in the top left-hand corner, so if you see where my initials are there, and about 3/4 of the way down my screen where it says photo and videos, where it says backup to Photos app, and that's going to be on by default for everybody now, whereas it was not a feature prior. So any pictures that are now being taken on the iPhone app by anyone in the field, they actually are saving to a photo album in your photo gallery. It should just be titled HeadLight. So like I said, by default, this is going to be on. For those of you that don't want the pictures taking up space on your iPhone, all you have to do is you can shut that off. So for me right now, it's green. If you want to shut it off, you can just tap it. And that will shut off, and then the pictures will not get saved to your photo gallery. So I just want to show you that if I click to my photo gallery here, it's titled HeadLight. So anything in here, just a picture of my dog and some flowers for me. But all of your pictures are actually going to be backed up in this HeadLight album now. Any questions on that or how to turn that on or off within the app? Okay. Quiet group today. So the next thing I wanted to show you is if anyone has any pictures that are already on your iPhone that you want to upload, you can actually bulk upload pictures from your iPhone directly to the Fast Capture app. So to do that from your photo gallery, I'm just going to tap in here and I have 4 photos here. And let's say I wanted to upload all 4 of these photos right from my iPhone gallery to Fast Capture. I can click the blue select button. And if I just tap on all of these in the bottom left-hand corner, that little square with an arrow pointing upwards, if I click on that, I can actually scroll through here and I can select the Fast Capture app. And if you see on my screen here, the user, that's my username. And then whatever project you were last on in the iPhone app. So if you do have access to multiple projects, this will pick up whatever project you were last on. So the last project I was on was the training project. So this, if I wanted to upload all 4 of these photos to that training project, I could even give it a title. So here, let me say, I could just say on-site activities. And if I click post here now, if I go back to the Fast Capture app, it actually, if you can see on my newsfeed here, it posted all 4 of those pictures, and it, whatever title you give it there will apply to all 4 of those. So this is how you can bulk load pictures that are maybe already on your iPhone if you want to get them onto any projects. Once you upload them, you can still click into them. If needed, you can change that title that I gave it, that on-site activities, but then you can still go in here, add your description. Everything's dated and time-stamped, and you could still go in here and add all of your tags. So it's exactly similar to how you can bulk upload multiple pictures on your iPad. You can now do the same on the Fast Capture iPhone app. Any questions on turning on or off that feature to save the photos or videos to that album or bulk uploading? Okay. The last really update I kind of wanted to give on the Fast Capture app is this feature actually hasn't been released yet, but it is coming. So again, similar to the iPad, your username is actually going to, in the next release of Fast Capture, which we'll definitely update everyone on, in that next release, your username is actually going to auto save on that login screen, just like it does on the iPad. So you won't have to type in your username and your password every time you log in on the iPhone. So as soon as that gets released, we'll definitely let everybody know.
That's great. That's my least favorite part about that.
Yeah, we heard everybody on that one. So that feature is definitely coming. And so that will be on our next release, which is hopefully in the next couple weeks. Did anyone have any general questions on the iPhone app or?
I want to say, I mean, this actually kind of ties into my part as well, but this is a great option, right? So what we're hearing across the state is a lot of inspectors really don't like to carry the iPad for whatever reason. And so if you have an iPhone, this is a great companion app, and to be able to grab images quickly while still using the same system and grabbing your GPS coordinates and that kind of stuff. So we really want to push this. If you want to use your phone, we're asking that you please do it this way. And we'll kind of get into some of that as I go through my session here. But yeah, I use it pretty regularly here in the office, and it really helps me out just on our, documenting some of our iPad stuff, the shipping stuff we document with it. And so really want to get behind that.
Yeah, you can actually see on my screen one of my on-site activities pictures. I was climbing scaffolding on the side of a highway in Minnesota. a few weeks ago, and instead of having to carry my iPad up, I could actually just stick my iPhone right in my back pocket. The last time I was climbing scaffolding on the side of a highway, I actually broke my iPad screen. So it was nice not to have to sling that over my shoulder. So really, in situations like that you don't, if you don't have a strap for your iPad or anything that you want to throw it over your shoulder, you can just put your iPhone right in your back pocket.
Real world testing.
Yeah, it was pretty real world. I was a little nervous, but luckily I made it. So Les, I think that kind of concludes my piece for this at least. So I'll stop sharing my iPhone screen and pass it over to you.
All right. Man, y'all left me plenty of time. Y'all messed up.
I know.
Also want to mention while we're talking about it, everybody I'm sure has met Tranisha at least on the Zoom calls already, and she's on today. She will be conducting a Fieldbook training for us this week. So if you have new inspectors, we ask that you get them to join that and go through that training with her, and then, or even if you just want a refresher, it's going to be a basic Fieldbook training. So I'm sure she's excited to dive in and start doing some training for us.
Hello, all. Good morning. Definitely excited to dive in and get my feet wet. And I just want to say I hope everyone is okay and has electricity and no damage and things like that from the major storms that we had hit our areas last night. So hope everyone's okay. And I look forward to the training Thursday.
Thanks for that, Tranisha. Yeah, it was pretty scary for a while there. I don't think I've seen a hurricane that was that bad. So
Right.
it was
Yeah,
pretty rough.
it was rough.
All right, so let me dive into this. Let me figure out which screen I need to share. Okay, so first thing, I kind of promised you that I would give some updates on SamplePlan. And so I logged in a couple weeks and just kind of noticed this. And it caught me off guard. It's not a huge change, although I thought it was at first. So when you click in to add, let's just pick something else, like we're going to add a test to it. So when you add a sample type, we're going to choose acceptance. So you may notice that this looks a little different. So what we have here is a little different. And definitely here, this used to be, I believe, rate and frequency. I believe the conversion factor was up here somewhere. And then, you had maybe remarks and errors and omissions. So these are just some new fields that you can capture, but currently they don't really do anything for the sample plan. So obviously you're going to need your rate and your frequency and your conversion factor. Right, so that would be one. We don't change the units, although these are available now. Like all this will come into play if when we move into the headlight limbs portion, right? But not necessary for right now. And you're going to see that you can override planned samples, required samples. These are all features that would be great in the future, but right now, no need to use any of this stuff. Sample description, you don't have to use this. You don't have to use sampling instructions currently. You have the instructions here, which some of those are obviously wrong in Site Manager, and Headlight is kind of propagating those over to us. But this really doesn't go anywhere in the dashboard. So you could put the instructions here, but the inspector wouldn't be able to see it anyway. So nothing really to do with this. The units. Now, I would say here, this remark, so this does show up in the dashboard. And so when you enter remarks here, like if you wanted your inspector to sample 2 per shipment, which we wouldn't do that, but just, you could type those remarks in here and that would show up in their dashboard and give them the information they needed to make sure that you were getting the amount of tests you want. And so really, you're still doing the same thing, rate, frequency, conversion factor, and remarks. But the rest of the stuff, you can kind of just leave it blank. You don't have to fool with it right now is the biggest thing there. Okay, that's all I have on SamplePlan. Any questions to that? Shouldn't be. I mean, I think that you're all pretty familiar with how to do the SamplePlan by now. I just didn't want people to log in to build a new SamplePlan and then freak out and go, oh no, we got all this different stuff we have to do now. You're really doing the same thing. It's just a different look.
I have a question about the sampling plan.
Okay, go for it.
Uh, is there ever gonna be where the sampling plan is already in there? Like, because they build a sampling plan, but you have to build it again in HeadLight sample. Uh, is it a way just to convert it over some kind of way or something?
So
Does that make any sense?
it makes perfect sense. But I do have one question about that. So when you say you build a sample plan and then you have to do it again in HeadLight, what are you talking about there?
I'm talking about like typically they have a sample plan or a sampling checklist, whatever, same
Mhm.
difference, I guess, built for a project. And then like the project that I'm on right now is the first project that I had HeadLight with. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's not in there for the project. So
Okay. So you probably, when you go to sample stuff, you probably had some materials available in Site Manager already. So at least I think that's what you're talking about. So yes, to answer your question generally, there is a way to have the sample plan pretty much auto-generated from the start, right? So when the project gets loaded in, um, we already know what the quantities are in the project, and we already know what we want to sample due to our material sample manual. The missing piece there is that material sample manual has not been coded into sample plan. And part of the reason for that is we have too many irons in the fire. So we are working on lots of contract administration stuff, building an entire LIMS portion. And so it's just one of those things that HeadLight has not been able to get to yet, but it is in the future, that's where we want to be. So we want the sample plan to pretty much auto-generate, and then really the PE and district lab engineer will just have to go in and make any adjustments they want. Now, you won't be able to do everything. You don't always know what contractor is going to choose to use, right? But you can do a majority of it.
right.
And so, yeah, that's right. And so the answer to the question is yes, it can be done. It just has not been done yet, I guess is the best way to put that. Now, we
Okay.
still recommend building the sample plan in HeadLight sample plan. And the reason for that is what we find is, when the sample plan is built there, the inspectors, especially less experienced inspectors or new inspectors, have a much easier time sampling a project and are actually it's a lot easier for them to meet the requirements if those samples are sampled from the dashboard. So when you build that sample plan and it propagates that dashboard, it's very easy for the inspector to just hit add new sample from whatever line item they're sampling, and the material code's there for them, because that's usually the hang up. Even I don't know all those material codes. I have to do lots of research through the spec book and all kind of stuff to try to figure out what the material code is if it's one I don't know. As you're inspecting, you usually figure out the main ones and you kind of remember those by heart, but the tougher ones, you have to do a lot of research to find them. And so having that person who is a little more experienced build that sample plan first really makes it easier for those inspectors. And so it does seem like it's double work, but it's not really. We really only want that sample plan in HeadLight. We don't really want to build one outside of that anywhere. And if you're building that one, it does take a little bit longer. We're aware of that, but we think the benefits throughout the project make it worth it and actually save time later, right? So it's a little more upfront work. So hopefully that helped. Anthony, I don't know what district you're in. What district do you work in?
I work for Arcadis.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So yeah. Because the reason I was asking that is we have LADOTD has 2 districts that the lab does the sample plan, and then the other 7 districts, the PE office does the sample plan. So that could kind of depend on where it's coming from on your question. But yeah, we realize there's some work to do there on the sample plan, but once you get used to it, I find that it's fairly easy to go in and add those requirements. I'm actually trying, and if there's anything we can do to help with that, I'm actually trying to think of some ways. So if you think of some training that we could put together to help with that, let us
Yeah,
know.
do y'all have a training for sampling plan and
We do.
area?
There is a training on our YouTube page. It's a full training through the sample plan. But what I'm finding is it's not necessarily how to use the software that people are having a hang up with. It's like actually how to build an LADOTD sample plan. And so that might even require getting some of the folks from the MATLAB involved and, getting them to kind of show us, how to really nail down the things that need to be sampled on the project.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that question though, because that's an important one, and it's one that we're going through right now. And the sample plan and sampling materials is a hot topic right now because we keep getting hit with these legislative audits every year, and so it is something we're all working on.
What's the YouTube page?
Here, let me see if I can grab it. Did you get the newsletter this morning?
I did. That's how I got on.
Okay,
It's
so
on there?
yes, so there is a
Okay.
link to the YouTube page, and even the last webinar is linked in there, and it'll get you to the YouTube page, and then you can go search.
All right, thank you.
While I'm here, let me just get it and drop it in the chat.
Yes, I'll drop it in the chat for you. And you can
Okay,
continue.
thanks, Felicia. Appreciate that.
Yes.
All right. How much time I got left? I got plenty of time. All right, so I went through yesterday, and this is going to be dealing with reports and kind of how to review reports, and even some work that maybe needs to be done within your unit on how the inspector is submitting things. And so we're just going to start here. So when you log in to review a report, you're probably going to be looking at this reports tab. So let me go over there. And I actually submitted this and made sure it rejected yesterday, but you're looking through this and you're looking for one that's submitted. Some of the things, and this is our test project, so it's a mess, but when you're looking at your project, hopefully you have sequential days here. I think that's one of the things you're going to be looking for, to make sure that each day of the project has a report, or each required day has a report. And then, but I kind of wanted to start at the observation level here. Let me make sure I'm filtered to me and yesterday. Yes, okay. And this is going to be a little interactive, and I know nobody likes to talk on these things, but maybe I can get you guys to answer some questions for me. So, and I don't know if this was, I might have just pulled this picture off the internet. I'm not real sure where I got it from. It was kind of older and sitting in my photos thing here, but I believe most of us in construction probably know what's going on here. But I just want to ask the question. So what's wrong with this observation? So toss out some answers here. Let's talk about what's going on here.
There's no words telling what it is and where it's at.
Right. So we have
No tags, there's no
No
title.
contractors. Yeah.
no contractors, tag. So any of these are called we say tags all the time. Let's be specific here. These are called labels, right? And so and these has no tags, has no contractor labels, none of that. There's no description here. Anything else? Those are all correct, by the way, but anything else? What else do you see?
Looks like the location where it was collected at is at your office.
Very good. I guess I should have opened this, but you picked that up right away. So if I'm out on a project taking a picture of, and we're going to go ahead and say they're pulling a mandrel to a plastic pipe, right? Then how could I have been at the office when I took this, right? Now, I will say there are going to be occasions where that just happens, right? You don't have service and you might have to go back to the office and upload it from there. But I want to show everyone, maybe let me back out just a little bit here, what you can do to remedy that. So let's say that the project's over here on Choctaw. If you grab this little thing and you know the project is right here, you could reset that GPS, right? Because there are times where you just have to hit the Wi-Fi and upload your stuff. That's gonna happen. But when it does, we would ask that you try to take the time and go put the GPS where it's supposed to be. So good catch there, Kevin. Anything else? All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and mention, so we don't have a title here. So this just says new image. And we want to make sure that we're giving all of our observations, at least especially our images, some kind of title here, because you don't want to go, this is, when you search this, it would just all search new image, right? There's no way to kind of, like this one, pile capacity. Now this is obviously, I did this in the office and took a lot of time doing this annotation. You might not want to do that in the field, but a good annotation on an observation is a good thing to have. Like this gives some really great information, even without the tags and stuff. At least you have some information on the image there that would work well. But here, I think I actually have, let me see if I can pull it up. I actually kind of redid that other observation so we could take a look at them side by side. Oop, did something wrong. I think I deleted it. Sorry about that. Let me just open another one. We got a few minutes to waste. I'm clicking too fast for my computer today. All right, so get this down where you guys can see the whole observation. So we're looking at these kind of side by side, and we're just kind of going back over what we just talked about. So you have your mandrel pool as a title. You want this to be 2 or 3 words. You don't want it to be a whole description, right? The description goes in this box. Pulling mandrel in the drain 28 days after installation, you know, that would be something typical, but just to be per observation and per project, right? So it's not always going to be easy to figure out what to put there, but just try to describe what's going on in the image if it's an image. We have a couple of tags here. This mandrel, like being able to go into the search bar for somebody who's not on the project, right? Somebody maybe here at headquarters or, you know, that's looking at this project 2 years later and go, you know, I want to know what happened with the mandrels. Being able to go in and search that term here by just putting in mandrel really makes it easy to find the information you want to find. Our area engineers up here at headquarters look through these projects all the time. And sometimes they struggle trying to figure out what to search for to get to the information they need. Well, if there's a drop-down list of tags, it's pretty easy to, you know, look through that list and see if they can find what they want. So that's pretty important. I want to say here, the one I actually created to show you what was right actually has something wrong with, there was no station number here. I forgot that one. So having a station and an offset is good information to have. And like I always say, this side of the image or this side of the observation is your content and this side is your context. So we're getting a lot of context over here on what proper observation is, which includes station number, that kind of stuff. If you have it, you know, handy, try to get your inspectors to practice inputting that station offset. We have a line item tagged, no real equipment other than this mandrels. And so, you know, I just put other there, but anybody know what the problem is with this observation? And this came up on a recent project and it's very important, and that's why I wanted to bring this up. So you see how it says May 14th, 2:28 p.m. in 4 hours. So how could this picture be there, right, if it's in the future? So I didn't go into the future and take this. I'll just tell you, you're able to do that on a project, right? You can select, oh, that one's locked, so it's not going to let me, but you could select a date and a time for when that observation happened. And so we have a project right now that is having some major issues and it's going to be litigation on it, right? And we had an inspector who was taking the images with their cell phone throughout the day and then going back to the office at the end of the day and uploading all those images. Now, the problem with that is we were not getting any GPS data, so it looked like none of that was happening at the project. It looked like it was happening later, which could be, you know, when you get into a court situation, that can be against you, right? But one of the, you know, observations that we noticed was it was listed at like 7 or 8 p.m. and it was daylight. And so just again, you know, these little details matter, and we need to start practicing um, getting the inspectors to be very accurate on their stuff. And that, in my mind, includes thorough review of these reports. Now, I know sometimes you have 6 projects going on and you have lots of reports being, you know, input. And that's why we also recommend, you know, keeping up with this stuff daily. Like make it your habit that you're going into these reports um, daily or within every couple days at least, and trying to get these reviews done, because we really want you looking at some of the details on these things. So let's just go to the report. And let me get this back to full size. So I'm going to go to this rejected report, and I'm hoping that when you're reviewing reports, at least for me, I click the report, and I think downloading the PDF is probably going to be the best way to review it. That's my recommendation. If you like just going, if you just like scrolling through, that's fine. This is all the observations that are in the report, but I find that the PDF is a good way to look at it. When you look at the PDF, and the reason I like this is because you don't have to click through all the spreadsheets, right? You have your high and low temperature, you can make sure that's there. You can make sure the 7 required narratives are there or more if other things happen, right? If you had utility work going on, there might be a utility remark here. And you're able to look at the diary. And this is another important, of course, I closed all the other tabs that I needed, but this is another important thing. So, you know, you have in the diary here that your work hours were 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. All the observations are between 151 and, except for this last one, we're not going to count that one right now because that was just me adding something, and 223. So, you know, within like 35 minutes or 40 minutes, all the observations were input for the day. So, you know, what was really going on between 6 a.m. and 1:51 p.m.? Those are the kind of things that we're looking for. And I do want to go open up that tab that I found, because that's kind of important to show you what we're looking for there. Sorry, this might take me a minute. That's why I tried to do it earlier this morning. Reports. And this was a live project. I don't like doing live projects on the webinar, but it's one that I knew. So let's see. Well, I say live. I mean, it's been over for a long time, but 2018. Hold on a second. So this is the report we're looking for. So I'm going to download the PDF to this. This is probably one of the largest reports I ever had. But I want to show you the difference between, where's the download? So the difference between this diary report and how it's laid out here, and one that is kind of proper, or I don't want to say proper, I want to say more telling of what the story is, right? So when I'm looking at the diary here, I see at 7 a.m. there are lots of observations here, narrative observations, but these are all the standard stuff that we have to input every day, right? And so that happens. Like when your inspectors go out and start their day, I think it's a good practice to go ahead and make those observations and start filling in some of that information. And then you can see at 8:03, I started adding some images here. It looks like these are some concrete images. Excuse me. And they're pretty close together because they're all kind of tied to the same thing, right? And then at 8:30, you got some narratives start happening of what happened. 8:56, 9 a.m. Do you see the sequence here? Like as time moves on, right, you're starting to see individual things of what happened on the project. And this is what we talk about when we say we want you to tell the story of the job. And so, you know, 10:22, 11:07, you know, there's some time here between 12:04 and 3 o'clock, but you can kind of see why that happened, right? So the last span was floated and they're doing the texture. And then, we start putting on curing compound later. So this is kind of in the finishing process there. And then it looks like I had to go back in and fix my work hours because I didn't do that at like 7 o'clock that night. So like I said, sometimes you're going to have an observation that's kind of outside of that time limit. But it would have been better had I gone in when I entered this work hours, if I had gone in and changed the time to 7 a.m., right? So it lined up correctly in our diary. Just a mistake I made, and you're going to have mistakes. That's okay, but what we don't want is consistently doing reports the wrong way, because that consistency would show up in court and be bad for us, right? And then obviously we have lots of work hours and stuff like that here. We're not kind of dealing with any of that. And so we have our PDF downloaded, and we noticed we got to get our diary fixed. The PDF is also a really good place to find errors. So most of you who are experiencing this know you can just scroll down to the bottom here and look at all these validation errors, right? So when you're looking at this site manager validation report, you want them all to look like this, with this little green check mark. When they're all green, there is a high percentage chance that your report is going to make it in the site manager correctly. That doesn't mean that it always is, because this does miss a few things sometimes. This takes care of most of the standard issues that we have, but it does not cover all of them. Oh, I must have clicked on a different thing here. Where am I at? Sorry. Looks like I got rid of it. But anyway, this is what we want it to look like, right? So we want all those to be green. If you have something red there, you need to be looking back through that report and trying to find out what is missing. Yeah, so I clicked off of it. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm getting clicky today. All right, so we talked about diary time. There are lots of things that can go wrong with work items, contract personnel, and equipment. I would probably say that 90% of the issues that come in about reports have to deal with one of those three spreadsheets. It's going to be something with the work items, something with your contract personnel, or something with equipment. But this view is actually a pretty good view, even without the validation tool, to kind of take a look and see what's going on. So you can see we have contractor selected here, contractor selected here, but see this none, definitely going to get rejected by site manager because site manager doesn't know where to put this foreman, right? They don't have contract personnel tied to it. Equipment, same thing. If you have one that's not selected here, not going to make it in the site manager, and it's going to cause a rejection. Now, the good thing is, say, this was our only problem with this report. The way that the sync works is it starts here, right? It starts bringing your temperatures over. It starts bringing all your site manager remarks in, and you don't have a failure yet. So all this is syncing correctly, right? And then you get into your work items, and we're just going to pretend all this is right. And so it starts syncing your work items. They're all going over correctly. And then it gets to contract personnel. We're going to pretend this is not here. So that's all going over correctly. It gets to equipment and it goes, okay, I got a problem. And the report says rejected. But really, everything above this error went to site manager. And so you're probably still good. You might have to go into site manager and add this one thing that you were trying to add, but you don't have to fix the entire report. And then once you fix it in site manager and approve the report in site manager, you're going to come back and you're going to get that, let me dismiss this. That's when you're going to come back and get that green check. This one's rejected. So right here on the status, it would show green, ready to go, even though it's rejected in HeadLight. I'll go with this. Okay, so back to the report. So one thing you can do, well, I'm sorry, I'm clicking all over the place. I want to get back to this. So if you get a rejection, one of the easiest ways to kind of get a gauge of what's going on is your history. And most of you know this, but I just want to go through it so we can be clear. The history gives you what day and time it was submitted, when it was reviewed, and who reviewed it. when it started going into Site Manager, right? Which this is what I've been using to try to determine that sync time. So, I submitted on May 13th at 2:24. By 2:41, it was inserted in the Site Manager. So this, actually, I'm glad I'm looking at this. This means that the sync time actually worked correctly, because that's only about 20 minutes. So, that was within one of those 30-minute sync cycles. So if you're seeing that with your reports going to Site Manager, you're in good shape. But here you begin to see a problem, right? Error, and this one's, you can actually read this one, which is nice. You error marshaling your contractor totals, but most of the time you're going to see something like this, where you have this computer person wording is what I'm going to call it, right? And so you might not be able to read this all the time, but you can pick out some words in here that help you understand what's going on. So the contract supervisor insert here is kind of the problem. And so when you go back to that thing, let's see, which one is it? It's probably this one, right? That is referring to. And obviously this one has I mean, you don't want to see one that has tons of these things on them, because they're even harder to figure out. But usually if you have just one thing that goes over it, it helps you, or leads you to being able to go into Site Manager and fix that thing that was broken, right?
Tell you what, Les, if I can pause you for a second, watch, go back to your report real quick. Just something that I noticed.
Here, or the PDF report?
The PDF.
Okay.
Okay, see how under the contractor personnel, we've got check marks right below supervisor right there. I'm willing to bet Site Manager would kick it back for that, because what in Site Manager, they've got a block for supervisor, and there was only so many pull downs for that one, like maybe 2 or 3. And down below is for your personnel, or your rest of your personnel. So probably some of those ones that are clicked supervisor are not in that pull down menu at the supervisor block in Site Manager.
You're exactly right, Kevin. You would get a rejection because of this. So when you are making, let's go to the observation. So when you go to make these observations on your contract personnel, you should only have one supervisor checked. And I believe it can only be superintendent or possibly traffic control supervisor.
Yes, that's it. That's the 2.
Yeah, and superintendent, and I will say this is per contractor, right? So you have this specialty track code. These are all, obviously this is just for test. These are not contractors we're actually doing any work with on this job. So superintendent would be checked for specialty track code. And then if you had one, is there one for Bow Brothers? So then there's a Bow Brother one here that you could have a check mark for. But besides those 2, yes, you would get a rejection. So that's a good catch on that. And then also you have to look for this. And sometimes they're hard to see because of the way they're spaced out, but there's a superintendent here and a superintendent here for the same contractor. That's another rejection. So you can only have one personnel type per contractor. You can't have 2. Anything other, and you're going to get a rejection. So work items. So let's look at a couple things on here. There's lots wrong with this, and you guys can probably see some of it right away, but we have a contractor selected. That's important, and that's good. One thing I noticed here is you have, where is it? So you have 4 of these 9001 things under 2 different contractors. And so your lump sum, your location sequence number I believe it has to carry through. I hope I'm not wrong about this, but I believe it has to carry through even though there are 2 separate contractors. So you would still, I actually believe this is right. So you put your location sequence number in 1 through 4 because you have 4 of the same items. Now this is rare because you don't normally have 2 separate contractors working on the same item. But if you did, that's kind of one of the things you have to know. I'm sorry, I'm trying to watch time here as well. I know we're getting kind of close, and I do want to give a few minutes for questions here, but now a lot of this stuff has gone away over the years. I'll say at first, when we first rolled out Fieldbook, we were having lots of problems with these rejections, but people have, for the most part, figured this stuff out and what it will accept and what it won't. I believe that this report at the end has helped us a lot. The validation errors, you can kind of take a quick peek at that and know what you need to fix before submitting. So I think that has been very helpful. I'm sure there's 30 things that I wanted to talk about that I'm not going to get to, but that's okay. But the main thing is, and this is why where it ties into that Fast Capture app. So on the project where we're having lots of problems, and there's probably going to be some litigation come out of that project, our documentation, especially in those kind of situations, need to be very accurate, right? And so they were able to go back in and fix all that. That's the good thing is, we're usually able to go back in and fix the things that need to be fixed. But trying to be very intentional about what we're capturing, when we're capturing it, making sure our GPS is correct so that we have our bases covered the best way we can when we are on these projects. Now, I understand as an inspector, a lot of times I felt like I was doing things that almost, was pointless, right? Because you'll go through a project making daily work reports for 2 years, and there's never an issue, and nobody's ever going to go look at it except for maybe the person that reviewed it, right? So you feel like you're doing all this work for not very much, reason, but it is very important what we're doing because we have to have accurate documentation of these projects. That's part of the reason the feds give us the money to do them in the first place, right? Is we have to do our QA process, and this is part of it. So having those inspectors out on the job, trying to take observations as things happen in the field. And I understand that's a big transition. Like for years, my first few years as an inspector, that was not the way we did it, right? You just waited to the end of the day and went and uploaded everything at one time. And so this is kind of a new process, and getting inspectors used to doing those things as they happen throughout the day. Anytime you change the process, you're going to have time, but we definitely have to start working on that. So I'm going to stop my share and then leave these last few minutes for questions on any of that. Okay, no questions. I must have explained it perfectly, and we can go.
Les, how soon have these videos been getting uploaded to YouTube?
You're talking about for the webinars?
For this, what we're having right now.
So Casey usually sends them to me same day. I usually take a couple of days to just edit them a little bit. I'll put, an intro on the front, and sometimes I'll cut something out or, but for the most part, no. So yeah, usually within a week, they're there. Now,
okay.
They go out with a link on the newsletter, and that's when most people go to view them, but they're usually there prior to that.
Okay, I was just curious because this video right here, what you just did, I'm making all of my guys watch this.
Great. It's a good idea. Let me just say this. I'll put this little plug out there. In fact, I'm going to share again because I want people to see how to do this. This is kind of shameless. I probably shouldn't do this, but no, I should. You definitely should go in and do this. I'm going to change my mind and say you should go do this. So when you go to our YouTube page, I probably should, if Tranisha put the link in there, I probably should have just clicked it, but I have it here. So this HQ construction. So when you go here, see this little drop down right here? If you go subscribe to this channel, right? It only takes a couple seconds. Every time I upload a video, you get a notification right here that video hit. And so you'll get an email or maybe just the next time you log in, it tells you that it's there. And so that's an easy way to make sure you're getting the soonest version of these things. Anything else? All right, well, I'm done. So
Les, that was awesome. Thank you so much. So just kind of bring it back from the beginning. Make sure you get the most recent version of materials downloaded on your iPads. And if anyone does, I think a lot of people on this call, maybe already some of you were going to join that micro learning session at the end of the month. But if anyone else wants to be added to that invite, feel free to come off mute and let us know, or pop your email in the chat, and we can get you added.
Yeah, I would like to be added if I'm not added.
Anthony, I definitely will. I emailed Tony earlier this morning about it. So I'll make sure to get you guys added too.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody jumping on and kind of going through this with us as we try to nail down all these solutions that we're putting out, right? So it's a work in progress. We know that. We appreciate all your work and trying to make them successful.
I did have one question for Les. He
Yeah,
was
sure.
saying, when he was talking about inspectors doing a review of their observations, how would you say they should do it? You think they should download the PDF also?
Yeah, actually, I do. That's a great question. So one of the things I used to do as an inspector is when I would finish my work report at the end of the day, I would take the time to download that PDF and just, I knew what I had done throughout the day, right? But just to make sure everything was there and that everything looked correct, that is the easiest for an inspector as well. And then you get really two reviews, right? So the inspector is reviewing their own work. And then whoever, we have Tech Sevens or some of our PEs review those reports. I don't know who does it on your side, but and then they look through it and they can kind of see the same thing. And then having those two reviews is better than one, right? So obviously taking another 2 minutes for an inspector to look through their report could save them a lot of time and having to go back and fix something later that just didn't get added. Just like the example I showed of my report where I had to go back in at 7 o'clock that night and I saw that I didn't add my work hours, right? That was typical for me. I'll tell you, most of the time I brought my iPad home and then I hooked it to my Wi-Fi. That's why it was 7 o'clock and I was sending that report. I don't recommend that everybody has to do that, but that's what I did. I would bring my iPad home, put it on the charger, hook to my Wi-Fi and send my report over. And I can guarantee you that I downloaded the PDF of it and said, oh, I don't have my work hours. Let me go add that right now. And then I submitted my report. Yep. Great question. I appreciate that. All right. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see y'all next month, or actually maybe this week if you're coming to one of the trainings. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.